Hey folks, so this one goes out by request because I've received a number of inquiries about how to study jazz improvisation. So first I wanted to say I don't think there is any incorrect approach to studying jazz improvisation, but I did want to share my own ideas that have been formed over a number of years of teaching and playing and talking to other teachers and players. So I've come to think of the discipline of jazz improvisation as being comprised of three separate but overlapping areas of study. And the first one is music theory. I think what you need here is really a good reference book, frankly, to understand how jazz musicians typically think of the structure of the music these days. And I recommend Mark Levine's The Jazz Theory book. So this is less about having a really abstract analytical knowledge and much more about having a working knowledge on your instrument of chord and scale relationships so you can manage the structure of compositions. So the next area of study is transcription, which I think of as basically taking in information by ear and making sense of it, analyzing it in some way. And this can be on various levels. It can be learning a lick from a solo or transcribing the entire solo and analyzing it. It can be transcribing an entire big band chart. And all these things have been part of my study. But what's important about this is it teaches us what actually sounds good, because I don't think we get all that much of that from the theory. We really get the nuts and bolts and the idea of the structure of the music from the theory, but we need to learn the language elements by listening to people play and figuring out how they're putting phrases together, how they're even putting notes together in a way that actually has melodic and rhythmic interest. So the third area of study is perhaps so obvious that I think it tends to get overlooked to some degree, and that is you have to do a lot of improvising. And this really, I think, can be divided into two parts. First, it's the practice you do on your own. You need to apply the lessons you're learning from your study of theory and from your transcribing. This is really how you develop your language on the instrument. Most importantly, you have to develop a sense of flow. And this is all critical in terms of your own private practice with jazz improvisation. And you also need to play with other people because you're going to learn different things in that setting. And of course, for most of us, we're going to be playing most of the time with other musicians. And so the way we deal with rhythm, the way we deal with phrasing and structure in our solos is going to be heavily influenced by playing with other people. If all you do is play on your own, you're going to find it very awkward to play with other musicians. So it's a critical part of your study. Okay, so I hope you have found this helpful. And the last thought I'd like to leave you with for now is something I found very instructive when it comes to studying jazz improvisation, and that is the parallels with spoken language. So this is something we take for granted as well. Almost all of us are expert speakers without even thinking about it, and expert improvisers in a spoken language. But of course, there's a shared vocabulary, there's grammar, there's a whole idea of making sense, and all of these ideas have their parallels in jazz improvisation. Some of it's really obvious, some of it's not so obvious, but I think it's worth thinking about as you study jazz, and I hope that helps. Have fun with it, and please feel free to reach out with any questions.